bullet entered Jin-woo Park's spine at exactly 11:47 p.m., and in that singular moment, the most feared man in Seoul's underworld learned what it meant to fall. He hit the pavement outside the Gangnam nightclub, rain mixing with blood, his legs suddenly foreign objects attached to a body that no longer obeyed him. Above him, the neon signs blurred into abstract art as his Lieutenant Dae-young screamed for backup. But Jin-woo could barely hear him. All he could hear was the silence of his lower body, the deafening quiet of paralysis. 6 months crawled by like wounded animals. The mansion that once hosted lavish parties now felt like a mausoleum. Jin-woo sat in his wheelchair by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Seoul's skyline mock him with its vertical ambition. Everything rose upward except him. His wife Soo-min moved through their home like a beautiful ghost, her Chanel perfume announcing her presence seconds before she appeared, her absence lingering long after she left. She entered the living room that morning in white silk, her face a practiced mask of concern that fooled no one, least of all her husband. "The physical therapist quit," she said, not quite looking at him. "That's the third one this month." Jin-woo's jaw tightened. "They're weak." "No, Jin-woo. You're cruel." She finally met his eyes, and he saw it there, the revulsion she could no longer hide. "The last one said you threw a water bottle at her head. She wasn't pushing me hard enough. Or maybe—" Soo-min's voice cracked with something between laughter and despair. "Maybe you're never going to walk again, and you can't accept it." The words hung in the air like executioners. Jin-woo's hands gripped the wheelchair arms so hard his knuckles whitened. "Get out." "Gladly." She turned, heels clicking against marble. "Oh, and Jin-woo? Grace will handle your care now. I fired everyone else. We can't afford them anymore. Not with your situation. If you're already hooked by this intense beginning, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think will happen next. Your support keeps these powerful stories coming. Grace Okonkwo heard everything from the kitchen. She'd learned to be invisible over 3 years in this house, a skill perfected in harder places than Seoul. She continued chopping vegetables for the dinner no one would eat together, her knife finding rhythm in the silence that followed Soo-min's departure. When Jin-woo's roar of rage echoed through the mansion, a wordless, animal sound of fury, she didn't flinch. She'd heard worse in the refugee camps. She'd survived worse crossing the Sahara. At 6 p.m., she brought his meal on a tray. The living room was dark except for the city lights bleeding through the windows. Jin-woo sat motionless, a silhouette of former power. "I'm not hungry," he said in Korean, not turning. Grace set the tray down anyway. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." "I said I'm not hungry." His voice was ice. "I heard you." She spoke in careful Korean, accented but clear. "I also heard your stomach growling from the kitchen." He spun the wheelchair around, and for the first time really looked at her. She was tall, her dark skin luminous even in the dim light, her expression neither sympathetic nor afraid, just present. It unnerved him. "Everyone else is gone," he said slowly. "Why are you still here?" "I need this job." "That's it? Money?" Grace considered him with eyes that had seen too much to be easily shocked. "That's it. I have a daughter in Lagos. Chioma. She's 16. I send money every month so she can eat, go to school, have a life I couldn't give her here. So yes, Mr. Park. Money. Does that disappoint you?" Her honesty was a slap. Jin-woo had built an empire on lies, on face-saving and elaborate deceptions. This woman's bluntness felt obscene. "I'm not an easy man," he warned. "I noticed." She moved toward the door, then paused. "But I've worked for difficult people before. At least you're honest about it." That night, Jin-woo dreamed of walking. In the dream, he climbed the stairs of his mansion 2 at a time, his legs powerful and sure. He woke at 3 a.m. to the reality of his useless body, and the rage that consumed him was so pure it felt cleansing. He wheeled himself to the bathroom, opened the medicine cabinet, and stared at the bottles of painkillers. Enough to end it. Enough to stop being this broken thing. His hand reached for the bottles. "I wouldn't." Grace's voice came from the doorway. Jin-woo spun around, fury replacing his shame. Get out. This is private. You think I don't recognize that look? She stepped into the bathroom, wearing a simple nightgown, her hair wrapped in a colorful cloth. I've seen it before. In the camps. In people who'd lost everything. You have that same expression they had, right before they walked into the desert to die. You know nothing about me. I know you're planning to take those pills. She moved closer, fearless. I know you think death is easier than this life. And I know you're wrong. Wrong. Jin-woo's laugh was bitter. Look at me. I was powerful. Feared. Men twice my size stepped aside when I walked into a room. Now I can't even stand to piss. My wife is leaving me. My men have abandoned me. I'm nothing. You're alive. That's not enough. Then make it enough. Grace's voice rose, sharp as broken glass. You think you deserve an easy way out? After everything you've done? I know who you were, Mr. Park. I've heard the rumors, the violence, the people who disappeared because you ordered it. You think you get to escape that with pills? No. You stay. You face what you've become. You figure out if there's anything worth saving in you. Jin-woo stared at her, speechless. No one had spoken to him like this in 20 years. His instinct was to destroy her for the disrespect, but his body wouldn't cooperate with his rage, and something else stirred beneath the anger. Something that felt almost like relief. Why do you care? He whispered. Grace's expression softened slightly. I don't. Not yet. But someone has to witness what you'll become. Whether that's a man or a monster, someone should see it. She took the pills from his hand, pocketed them, and left him alone in the bathroom with his reflection and his shame. The next morning, Grace found him in the gym, attempting to lift his body from the wheelchair to the weight bench. He'd fallen, was lying on the mat, sweating and cursing. Help me up, he demanded. No. His head snapped toward her. What? Figure it out yourself. You want to be strong? Start by being strong enough to get yourself off the floor. I'm paralyzed, you stupid woman. Your legs don't work. Your arms do. Your mind does. Use them. Jin-woo wanted to hate her, but the challenge in her voice awakened something dormant in him. He dragged himself across the mat, using his arms, his core muscles screaming. It took 15 minutes to get back into his wheelchair. When he finally managed it, he was drenched in sweat, humiliated, and somehow more alive than he'd felt in months. Grace handed him a towel. Tomorrow, try to do it in 10 minutes. You're cruel, he gasped. I learned from the best. She almost smiled. Breakfast is ready. Over the following weeks, a strange rhythm developed. Grace pushed him in physical therapy with relentless determination. She didn't coddle him, didn't treat him like he was fragile. When he complained, she told him about crossing the Sahara with Chioma as a baby, about men with guns who'd killed her husband, about choosing to live when dying would have been easier. You want to compare suffering? She said one afternoon, as he struggled with resistance bands. Fine. I watched my husband bleed out in our village. I carried my infant daughter 3,000 kilometers through deserts and war zones. I was raped by smugglers in Libya. I nearly drowned crossing to Italy. I've been spit on in this country, called names I won't repeat, paid less than I'm worth, and treated like I'm invisible. And I'm still here, still fighting. So forgive me if I don't have much sympathy for your self-pity. Jin-woo stopped mid-exercise, staring at her. Why are you telling me this? Because pain doesn't make you special, Mr. Park. It makes you human. What you do with it, that's what defines you. Something shifted in the air between them. Jin-woo saw her clearly for the first time. Not as staff, not as help, but as a person who'd endured catastrophes that made his suffering look almost quaint. The realization humbled him in ways he didn't expect. Loving this transformation. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed someone change completely? Tell us your story below. 3 months into their new arrangement, Sumin returned. She swept through the mansion like a cold front, her lawyer trailing behind her with documents. Jin-woo was in the garden. A small courtyard space Grace had transformed with plants and herbs when his wife found him. Jin-woo, we need to talk. He turned his wheelchair to face her. She was stunning as always, perfectly composed, and utterly hollow. He wondered how he'd never seen it before. "I'm filing for divorce," she said without preamble. "My lawyer says I'm entitled to half of everything. The house, the remaining assets, all of it." "Take it." She blinked, surprised. "What?" "Take it all, Sumin. The money, the properties, everything. I don't care anymore." "You're lying. You've always cared about power, about possessions, about being feared." Jin-woo looked at the small garden around him, at the tomato plants Grace had coaxed from seeds. "But what did any of it matter? I'm still here, still breathing, and none of it kept you from leaving. None of it made me worth loving." Sumin's carefully constructed facade cracked. "You were never worth loving, Jin-woo. You were worth fearing, worth benefiting from. But love? You murdered that possibility years ago with your violence and your cruelty. You're not the man I married." "No," he interrupted quietly. "I'm exactly the man you married. You just can't profit from him anymore." She left without another word. The divorce papers arrived a week later. Jin-woo signed them without reading them, and felt lighter than he had in years. Grace found him in the garden that evening, staring at the sunset. She sat on the bench beside his wheelchair, not speaking, just present. The silence between them felt comfortable, earned. "She took almost everything," Jin-woo said finally. "Almost. I hid money. Offshore accounts she doesn't know about. Enough to survive. Smart. Paranoid. I always knew loyalty was temporary in my world." He glanced at her. "Why are you different?" "I'm not. I told you. I need this job." "That's not the whole truth anymore." Grace was quiet for a long moment. "No," she admitted. "It's not." "Then what's the truth?" She met his eyes, and he saw something there that made his breath catch. "I see who you're becoming, not who you were. And I think there might be someone worth knowing beneath all that armor you wear." Jin-woo's throat tightened. "I've done terrible things, Grace. Things I can't take back. I've hurt people, killed people, ordered deaths like I was ordering dinner. There's blood on my hands that won't wash off." "I know. And you still stay?" "I stay because you're not pretending it didn't happen. You're not making excuses. You carry that weight and it's breaking you, and you're letting it break you instead of running from it. That takes courage." "It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like punishment." "Maybe that's what courage is. Facing the punishment you've earned and choosing to become better anyway." They sat together as night fell, two broken people from opposite sides of the world, finding something unexpected in their shared solitude. The phone call came at midnight. Grace's cry of anguish woke Jin-woo from his bedroom. He wheeled himself quickly down the hall and found her on the floor of her small room, phone still clutched in her hand, sobbing with a grief that shook her entire body. "Grace? What happened?" She couldn't speak, just handed him the phone. Through broken English, a doctor in Lagos explained. Chioma was sick, very sick, complications from typhoid fever. She needed surgery, needed medicine, needed money Grace didn't have. "How much?" Jin-woo asked. The doctor named a figure. Not enormous by Jin-woo's standards, but devastating for someone like Grace. He handed back the phone. "I'll take care of it." Grace looked up, tears streaming. "What?" "I'll wire the money tonight. Give me the hospital information." "Mr. Park, I can't accept." "You can and you will." His voice was gentle but firm. "You stayed when everyone else left. You treated me like a human being when my own wife wouldn't touch me. You pushed me to be better than I was. Let me do this one good thing. Let me be useful for something other than destruction." Grace collapsed against him, and he held her awkwardly from his wheelchair, his arms around her shaking shoulders, and felt something crack open in his chest that he'd thought was permanently sealed. By dawn, the money was sent. By the next day, Chioma was in surgery. Grace didn't leave her phone, waiting for updates, and Jin-woo stayed with her, bringing her food she didn't eat, tea she didn't drink, just present in her fear the way she'd been present in his. When the call came that Chioma had survived, that she was recovering, Grace wept again. but this time with relief so profound it seemed to transform her. She threw her arms around Jin-woo's neck, and he held her, and something shifted between them that neither could name but both could feel. "Thank you," she whispered against his shoulder. Thank you. Grace." He pulled back enough to see her face. "You don't need to thank me. Just tell me about her. About Chioma. I want to know." So she did. They sat in the garden as sunrise painted the sky, and Grace told him everything. About her daughter's laugh, her intelligence, her dreams of becoming a doctor. About the guilt of leaving her behind, the agony of years apart, the hope that one day they'd be together again. "She sounds remarkable," Jin-woo said. "Like her mother." Grace met his eyes, and the air between them changed. "Jin-woo, I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you stopped me from taking those pills. Maybe when you pushed me to be stronger. Maybe just gradually in all these small moments. But I'm falling in love with you, and I know I have no right to. I know I'm broken and difficult and stained with violence. But I need you to know." Grace's hand found his. "I'm falling in love with you too. And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because nothing good has ever come from my love. Everyone I've loved has died or disappeared or been taken from me. Loving you feels like tempting fate. Then let's tempt it together." He leaned forward, and she met him halfway, and their kiss was gentle and desperate and full of everything they'd survived to reach this moment. This is the turning point you've been waiting for. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss our emotional journeys. Drop a comment if you believe in second chances. The piece lasted exactly 3 weeks. Dae-young arrived on a Tuesday with 4 men, their expensive suits and empty eyes announcing danger before they spoke. Jin-woo was in the garden with Grace when he heard the front door crash open. "Stay here," he told her. "Jin-woo, stay here." He wheeled himself inside to find his former lieutenant standing in the foyer, examining the minimalist space with obvious contempt. "Jin-woo, you've really let this place fall apart. Almost as much as you've let yourself fall apart." "Dae-young, I didn't invite you." "No, but we need to talk about your refusal to support the organization's expansion. Your weakness has created problems. I'm not part of the organization anymore. That's not how it works, and you know it." Dae-young's smile was venomous. "You don't get to retire. You don't get to play house with your little African maid and pretend your past doesn't exist." Jin-woo felt ice in his veins. "Leave her out of this." "Oh, she's very much in this. See, your refusal to help us made us look weak. Made me look weak. I need to restore that image. And I think publicly executing you would do nicely. But first," he gestured to his men, "we'll take everything of value, starting with information about your hidden accounts." The men moved through the mansion, tearing through drawers, smashing furniture. Jin-woo sat helpless in his wheelchair, rage and fear warring in his chest. Then he heard Grace scream from the garden. Something primal ignited in him. Without thinking, he threw himself from the wheelchair, landing hard, his useless legs dragging behind him as he pulled himself with his arms toward the garden door. His shoulders burned, his hands bled from the friction, but he didn't stop. He found Grace struggling against one of Dae-young's men, the thug's hand in her hair. Jin-woo grabbed a garden rake and swung it with all his remaining strength, connecting with the man's knee. The thug went down screaming. "Touch her again," Jin-woo gasped from the floor, "and I'll kill you with my bare hands." Dae-young appeared in the doorway, genuinely surprised. "Well, there's still some fight in you after all." Grace broke free and ran to Jin-woo, helping him up, putting herself between him and danger. "Get out of here," she said to Dae-young, her voice steady despite her fear. "Just take what you want and go." "Oh, I will. But first," Dae-young pulled a gun. "I need to finish this. Jin-woo's been dead for months." "Really? I'm just making it official." He aimed at Jin-woo's head. Grace didn't hesitate. She stepped directly in front of the wheelchair, spreading her arms. "Move," Dae-young ordered. "No. Move," or I'll kill you both. Then kill us both. Because I'm not moving. Jin-woo tried to pull her aside. Grace, don't. No. She looked back at him, and her eyes were fierce with love. If he wants you, he has to go through me. The silence stretched. Dae-young's men shifted uncomfortably. One of them, younger than the others, spoke up. Boss, maybe we should just… Shut up. Dae-young's hand shook slightly. Move, woman. I don't want to kill you. Then don't. Just leave. We have nothing you need. He has accounts, money, which he'll give you. All of it. Grace's voice softened. Mr. Park will transfer everything to you right now. Every account, every asset, everything hidden. You can take it all. Just spare his life. Jin-woo started to protest, but Grace squeezed his hand, silencing him. Dae-young considered, greed warring with vengeance in his expression. Everything, he said finally. Everything, Grace confirmed. Grace, no? Yes. She looked at Jin-woo with absolute certainty. Money or you. It's not even a choice. Jin-woo felt tears, actual tears, burn his eyes. In his entire brutal life, no one had ever chosen him over profit, over security, over survival itself. He gave Dae-young the account numbers, the passwords, the access codes, watched decades of accumulated wealth transfer away with a few phone calls, and felt nothing but relief. When it was done, Dae-young holstered his gun. You're pathetic, he said. Both of you. You deserve each other. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Jin-woo? You're dead to the organization now. Officially. No protection, no connections, no nothing. You're nobody. Good, Jin-woo said. I never wanted to be the person you made me into anyway. Dae-young left with his men and millions of dollars. Grace and Jin-woo sat in the wreckage of the garden, holding each other, alive against all odds. We need to leave Korea, Jin-woo said quietly. He might come back. Where would we go? Anywhere. Everywhere. As long as we're together. He pulled back to look at her. And we bring Chioma. She's recovered now, yes? We'll get her here, get her papers, and we'll leave. All three of us. Start over somewhere new. Grace's eyes widened. You'd do that? Take on a teenager you've never met. She's your daughter. That makes her important to me. Besides, he smiled, and it transformed his scarred face into something almost handsome. I've always wanted to do something good with my life. Maybe being a father figure is a start. You're insane. Probably. But I'm insane about you. So what do you say? Want to run away with a broke, paralyzed ex-gangster and build something new? Grace laughed through tears. Yes. God help me, yes. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of forged documents, careful planning, and stolen moments of joy. Jin-woo used his remaining contacts, the few who owed him favors from the old days, to arrange papers for all of them. Grace's hands shook when she called Chioma to tell her they'd finally be together. Mama! Chioma's voice crackled over the phone. Is this real? It's real, baby. Pack your things. You're coming home. Home where? Grace looked at Jin-woo, who mouthed Portugal. We're going to Portugal, sweetheart. All of us. You, me, and someone I want you to meet. The reunion at Murtala Muhammad International Airport in Lagos was something Jin-woo watched from a careful distance. Grace ran to her daughter. A tall, beautiful girl with her mother's eyes and a teenager's wariness. And they held each other and wept, and Jin-woo felt privileged to witness it. When Grace finally brought Chioma over to meet him, the girl studied Jin-woo with unsettling intensity. She saw the wheelchair, the scars, the expensive watch he'd forgotten to leave behind, and her expression closed like a door. So, she said in English, you're the man my mother is running away with? Chioma, Grace started. It's okay. Jin-woo met the girl's challenging gaze. Yes, I'm that man. And I know you have no reason to trust me, and every reason to protect your mother. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm worthy of her. That's all. Just a chance. Chioma crossed her arms. What kind of man are you? A bad one, mostly. But your mother is teaching me to be better. My mother shouldn't have to teach grown men how to be decent. You're absolutely right. Jin-woo smiled slightly. You're smart. And protective. Good. Grace deserves someone watching out for her. I'm glad you're here. Something in Chioma's expression softened fractionally. We'll see, she said. I'm watching you. I'd be disappointed if you weren't. The journey to Portugal was long and tense. Chioma sat between Grace and Jin-woo on the plane, a living reminder of all that was at stake. She peppered him with questions. Where were they going? How did he meet Grace? What did he do for work? Why was he in a wheelchair? Jin-woo answered honestly, though he kept the darkest details vague. My mother says you saved her life, Chioma said at one point. It's more accurate to say we saved each other. From what? Jin-woo looked at Grace, who nodded permission. From loneliness, he said simply. From the belief that we were beyond redemption. From the idea that broken things can't be made beautiful again. Chioma absorbed this, then said, You're still a bad man, though. I can tell. How? Your eyes. They've seen things. Done things. Mama's eyes have that same look, from what she survived. But yours. She leaned closer, studying him. Yours chose the darkness. Hers had darkness forced on her. There's a difference. Jin-woo felt gutted by this teenager's perceptiveness. You're right, he managed. But I'm trying to choose differently now. Does that count for anything? Maybe. Chioma settled back in her seat. We'll see. The house Jin-woo had arranged in Portugal was small. A cottage overlooking the Atlantic in a fishing village where no one asked questions. It had 3 bedrooms, a garden that was mostly weeds, and a view that made Grace gasp with joy. It's perfect, she breathed. Chioma was less impressed. It's tiny, and there's no Wi-Fi. We'll get Wi-Fi, Jin-woo promised. And yes, it's small, but it's ours. No one can take it from us. They settled into an awkward routine. Grace cooked fusion meals, Nigerian stews with Korean spices. Chioma enrolled in the local international school and struggled with Portuguese. Jin-woo spent hours in the garden, learning to grow things instead of destroying them, and tried to figure out how to be something resembling a father. One evening, Chioma found him on the patio, watching the sunset. She sat down without invitation. Mama loves you, she said abruptly. I love her too. That's not good enough. Jin-woo turned to look at her. What would be good enough? I need to know who you really are, not the careful version you show us. The real you. Because if you hurt her, if you turn out to be another man who takes and gives nothing back, I'll never forgive you. And she'll never recover. The rawness in her voice made something crack in Jin-woo's chest. He took a deep breath and began to talk. Really talk. He told her about his childhood, about being beaten by his father, about learning that power was the only currency that mattered. He told her about climbing through the criminal ranks, about the violence he'd committed, the people he'd hurt. He spared nothing. I was a monster, he said finally. I ordered deaths. I trafficked in fear. I built an empire on suffering. And then I got shot and I lost everything, and your mother was the only person who stayed. She didn't have to. She owed me nothing. But she saw something in me. Something I couldn't see. And she refused to let me give up. Chioma's eyes were wet. Can a monster become human again? I don't know. But your mother makes me want to try. Every day, I wake up and I choose to be better than I was yesterday. Some days I succeed. Some days I fail. But I keep choosing. Because of her. Because of what we could be together. And what about me? Chioma's voice broke. Do you choose me too? Jin-woo's throat closed. Yes, he whispered. I choose you too. If you'll let me. Chioma stood and walked to him. Then, shocking them both, she hugged him, her arms tight around his shoulders. Don't make me regret giving you a chance, she said into his shoulder. I won't. I promise. The months that followed were the happiest of Jin-woo's life. They opened a small restaurant together. Grace's Nigerian recipes fused with Jin-woo's Korean memories, served in a dining room that seated 20. It was tiny, modest, nothing like the empire Jin-woo once ruled. And it was perfect. Chioma thrived. She made friends, learned Portuguese, talked about studying medicine. Grace bloomed, her laugh becoming a frequent sound. And Jin-woo discovered that rolling through their small garden, teaching Chioma Korean, and cooking with Grace brought more satisfaction than power ever had. But the past doesn't stay buried forever. Dae-young appeared on a Tuesday, 9 months after they'd left Korea. Jin-woo was in the restaurant kitchen when Grace's scream cut through his contentment like a blade. He wheeled out to find Dae-young with 2 men, holding Chioma by the arm. "Surprise," Dae-young said pleasantly. "Miss me? Let her go." Jin-woo's voice was dead calm. "Oh, I will. After we settle our accounts. You took everything. There's nothing left. There's always something left. This nice little business, for example. And your family." He tightened his grip on Chioma, who glared at him with defiant rage. "I figured you'd try to disappear, but you're sloppy, Jin-woo. Always were. Easy enough to track." Grace moved toward her daughter. "Don't hurt her. Please. Nobody needs to get hurt. Jin-woo just needs to remember who he is. Who he'll always be. Criminal. A monster. You can play house all you want, but blood doesn't wash off." Something strange happened then. Instead of rage, Jin-woo felt clarity. He looked at this man, his former lieutenant, his old life made flesh, and felt nothing but pity. "You're right," he said quietly. "I was a monster. I did terrible things, and those things stained me permanently. But you know what? I'm not that person anymore. Not because I've erased what I did, but because I choose every day to be different, to be better. And you can't take that from me." Touching speech. But I can take everything else. Jin-woo wheeled himself forward. "Then do it. Take the restaurant. Take whatever money we've saved. Take it all just like before. But you can't take us. You can't take what we've built. Because it's not made of money or property or power. It's made of choice. And I choose them over everything you could possibly threaten me with." He looked at Grace, at Chioma, at the life they'd created. "I choose love over fear, connection over isolation, redemption over revenge. And nothing you do can touch that." Dae-young's expression flickered with something that might have been uncertainty. His men shifted uncomfortably. The moment stretched. Then Grace spoke, her voice strong. "My daughter is going to be a doctor one day. She's going to save lives, heal people, make the world better. And she's going to do that because we chose to leave violence behind. You want to stop that? You want to be the man who destroys that kind of future? Then you're a smaller person than even I thought." Chioma wrenched her arm free. "And if you hurt my family, I'll spend my entire life making sure everyone knows who you are and what you've done. I'll become the best doctor in the world, and I'll tell every patient, every colleague, every person I meet about the pathetic man who needed to threaten children to feel powerful. Is that the legacy you want?" The silence was deafening. Jin-woo watched emotions war across Dae-young's face. Rage, shame, confusion. Finally, he lowered his gun. "You've all gone soft," he spat. "You deserve the pathetic lives you're building." "You're right," Jin-woo agreed. "We are soft now, vulnerable, human. And it's better than anything I had when I was hard." Dae-young left, taking his men and his threats. They didn't come back. Jin-woo learned later through old contacts that Dae-young had been arrested in Seoul, his empire crumbling. The old world was eating itself as it always did. 1 year later, Jin-woo Park sat in his garden watching Grace and Chioma plant tomatoes. His wheelchair was covered in dirt, his hands stained with soil, and he was completely happy. The restaurant had become popular with locals and tourists alike. Chioma had been accepted to pre-med programs at 3 universities. And Grace sang while she cooked, the sound filling their small house with joy. "Papa," Chioma called. She'd started calling him that 6 months ago, and it still made his heart skip. "Come help us. We need your expertise." "I don't have any expertise in gardening," he protested. "No, but you're good at digging deep and finding something worth saving. That's basically what gardening is." Grace laughed, and Jin-woo wheeled over to join them. As he helped pat soil around seedlings, he thought about the man he'd been: powerful, feared, and utterly alone. That man had commanded an empire. This man, this broken, humbled, redeemed man, commanded nothing but his own choices. And he'd chosen so much better. "What are you thinking about?" Grace asked, reading his expression. "That I was powerful once. Now I am loved. And I chose the better kingdom." She kissed him, soft and sweet, her dirt-stained hands cradling his face. Chioma made exaggerated gagging sounds, and they all laughed. And Jin-woo knew with absolute certainty that this small, imperfect, beautiful life was worth every empire he'd ever lost. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or made you believe in second chances and the transforming power of love, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and tell us in the comments what this story meant to you. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to change, never too late to choose love over everything else. Your support means we can keep bringing you these powerful stories. Until next time, remember, redemption is always possible, and true power lies not in what we take, but in what we choose to give. ****